Hello, 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 hello. Hi, hey, hi everyone. It is Tuesday, day 5 of 21 days of lockdown. And welcome to today's chat 21 chats, 21 days. Yeah, I hope that I will get some of you here today. So, how has your day been? Day 5. I think it's Tuesday. Some of us have been locked down, really in place, for the last 7 days, actually. No, 5 days, 5 to 6 days. So, I think the last time I went out was on Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday, last week. And I haven't really gone out since then. And so today I decided to actually go out and go to the pharmacy and go to the bank because I had a couple of things I needed to sort out. So yeah, interesting time outside. Hey, how's it, Kama? How's it? How's it? How's it? Can you hear me? Um, so yeah, so I went outside today for the first time in 6 days. And I thought I would encounter empty streets. I didn't. I thought I would encounter empty shops. I didn't. No, stand this page. Can you hear me? What is it doing? Um, so yeah, so hi, you can hear me perfectly. Okay. Great. So I'm going to start. Awesome. It did that thing again where it played back. So I think every time someone joins and I try and say hi to that person, I actually stop the video. So I stop the recording. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So I'm not going to try and respond. I'll respond on my phone. So if you see me going on my phone, I'm trying to avoid actually stopping the video. Okay, so I went out today and I went to get a couple of things from the pharmacy and I need to sort out something at the bank. So interesting experience. People are not social distancing at all. Like there's nothing. I didn't see. In fact, there are queue marshals. People who knew, who could have imagined having queue marshals at shopping center? No army. There was no army whatsoever in our area. So I went to a couple of shopping centers. So the first one I went to was Kilani Mall, which is just here next door to us. And the cops were there, but they were shopping as well. So the cops were shopping. And so I went to Woolies. Woolies, obviously, at that stage, they were letting people in one by one, but by the time I left, they had just opened the doors. In the Woolies queue, Black people were not social distancing. And the funny thing is, they were wearing masks and gloves, but they were pushing against each other. I was like, what the heck? So a queue marshal had to actually come and tell them, look at the lines on the floor, meter, social distancing. And the guys are just, I'm like, why are you wearing a mask if you're going to be rubbing up against other people? You know? So that was interesting. A lot of old people are still out and about and they're having the times of their lives. I know the stores have specific times for the elderly, but they don't seem to be bothered that much about coronavirus. In fact, they are wearing masks, but the masks are hanging around their necks and they're busy talking and they're touching everything. Oh, interesting experience. I was walking around with my wipes, just wiping everything, wiping every surface if I had to lean against something. Avoiding the lift, getting into the stairs. So I was actually even using my wipe to use an ATM. I'm like, I am not touching it, anything. So I had wipes, and everywhere I went, I would take out my wipes. I do not want to get coronavirus, people. Apparently, if you have hypertension or coronary disease or diabetes or whatever, you're high risk. And if you have any sort of lung issues, so I've got hypertension and some lung issues, so I get like chronic upper respiratory infections. So I think I'm not gonna go out again if I can help it. I do not want to risk it. The chances of getting infected with anything is super high out there because people are really not observing any of the protocols. People are just coughing just into air. I went into Norwood Shopping Center as well. Same thing. Pick n Pay was full. There were queues. Although, I mean, so it's pointless actually practicing social distancing in the queue when in the aisles people are still like trying to. Ooh, I just felt by the time I actually got into my car, I was like, I've got all the symptoms, my throat, I'm fine now. So yeah, so I hope you can still hear me. But yeah, so I'd like some feedback. How was your day? Have you gone out shopping? Have you done anything special in the last 5 days? If you've gone out, let me know. I've also created a poll on this video. So if you can find it, if you're on a laptop, maybe you can see that there's just one question, essentially. So let me know. So today I'm going to read from a book, one of my favorite books. It is called Changes That Heal. So I'm going to read from the book. And the book, it is based off, it's a Christian book. I think it's, yeah. So it references the Bible a lot. Some people think just because I am not necessarily a Christian, that I do not read. You played read the Bible, but I do, or read books like that. Kama says she played virtual 30 seconds with some friends. Apparently it's fun. I want to do it, but I need to get some friends together to play virtual 30 seconds. I mean, it must be fun. There's an app that a friend is trying to get us to use, which is called Party Square, Happy Square, Happy Party. I'll try and remember it. But there's an app. My hands are sanitized, by the way, because I do touch my face a lot. So I've actually just washed my hands right now. So as I was saying, there's an app. So I do want to play 30 seconds. If anyone's up for 30 seconds, I've been playing Words with Friends when I'm bored. But I do want to play some games. I haven't gotten around to actually reading much, but I'm hoping I'll get there. Okay, let's get this party started. Hi, everyone who's watching. So I'm going to start reading. The book that I'm reading from is called Changes That Heal. I know it's the other way around, by Dr. Henry Cloud. It's one of those books that I love sort of referring to. I'm going to read like 2 pages. They're quite short, so it's not going to be long. And this is about time, and obviously it relates to the time that we're at now. So I'm trying to find topics that relate to the stage in which we find ourselves in, or the narrative that is impacting us. Okay, so I'm reading chapter 2, which is called Time. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, "For 3 years now, I've been coming to look for fruit from this tree, on this fig tree, and I haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it use up the soil?" "Sir," the man replied, Leave it alone for 1 more year. And I'll dig around it and I'll fertilize it. If it bears fruit for next year, fine. If not, then cut it down. This is a verse from Luke chapter 13, verses 6 to 9. So I'm sure you know the story if you read the Bible. In this parable of Jesus, the owner of the tree expected fruit from his tree, right? When the tree bore no fruit for 3 years in a row, the owner was not happy with this, obviously. And he was very disappointed and he was furious with the guy who took care of the vineyard. Cut it down, he ordered. This is often what we ourselves actually experience when we examine our own failures, our fruitlessness in light of reality. We look at ourselves, all of us, the tree, so our self is represented by the tree, and we expect to be able to keep up our marriages together, to raise perfect children, to make loyal friends, and to perform our work without error, which is supposed to be the fruit. When we fail, and then we become depressed because we are fruitless, we become fearful or anxious, we cut ourselves down by saying, I should be able to do that. I shouldn't get so angry. I should be able to get close to people. I should be able to accomplish more. What have I done with my life? I should be able to be like so and so from next door, right? At this point, we are like a house divided against ourselves, against itself. Like the tree owner, we want growth, but we judge ourselves quickly because we are in a rush, right? And we judge ourselves very, very harshly without taking the time to figure out what could have gone wrong. What is the problem? We operate with truth and grace, as Ruth's missionary father did, but with disastrous results. So sometimes we tend to tell ourselves that we are operating with truth, we are operating with grace, but still nothing happens. Sometimes we operate with truth, with grace, and no truth. We say things like, it doesn't matter. I don't care anyway. That's really the best I could have done. I can't help it that so and so reacted that way. If it doesn't like it, it's not my problem. I couldn't help myself. I can't help it that he reacted that way. Dead wood takes up space in our lives, right? So that's our vineyard. Either we allow our inability to relate to others, or to control our anger, or to discipline our children, or whether it's our partners have fights and not be able to manage relationships with those we are in partnership with, continuously rotting our lives and robbing us of the delicious fruit that God, the universe, whoever you believe in, has put in store for us. And we deny that we have a problem sometimes with even more disastrous results. We're like, it's other people's fault. It is not my problem. Right? So to some degree, we all do both. We sometimes yell, cut it down. And other times we ignore it. We think it doesn't exist. We all do this. But one thing is for sure, when we either ignore our failure to bear fruit in the image of God, or we judge in absence, it's absence with an angry, cut it down. We end up either in grace or truth, and we do not grow. So regardless of whatever your religion is, and this applies in most religions, right? If we fail to grow, we fail to bear fruit because we are always either judging ourselves harshly, or we pretend we do not care. So, but there's another option, so if you combine both grace with truth, we can stimulate growth, right? So in this parable that I read, it is symbolized by the gardener saying, I'm going to dig around the tree and I'm going to fertilize it, and let's see what happens maybe after another year. So that is the whole thing. Like, when you combine both grace and truth, you say, let's take out the weeds, let's see what happens, let's put some fertilizer in and see what happens. But in our relationships as well, what is that fertilizer symbolized by? Or what's the symbol for the fertilizer? Fertilizer is like love. Um, when you add fertilizer of love to our relationships, whether it's at work or in our personal relationships, that's the only way you can induce growth and development, because we're enriching the soil around it. I think the day before I spoke about grief and how to get out of grief. And one of the things I mentioned that I found very useful, which a lot of writers talk about, is actually at your lowest point. It's adding love and freedom. For me, I said the way I could get out of that negative space that I was in terms of the grief I felt, was just applying freedom in every situation, and also just applying love in every situation. The more I loved, the more I saw things through the filter of love, the less the pain of that grief felt. So I think both grace and truth, if I'm going to read from here again, they give us the ingredients to head in the right direction, and to provide the fuel we need to keep going, the fuel we need to keep on growing and changing. So so there's one more thing though that we need to add to that process. We spoke about grace and truth, but there's one thing that's still required for us to come to full fruition. So if you look at I think I quoted the parable I read was from the Bible, which was Luke chapter. I just want to see what chapter it was, chapter 13, verses 6 to 9. So if you look at verses 8 to 9, it says, Sir, the man replied, leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down. So what this guy added, so there was grace, there was truth. So this gardener was operating from a place of grace and truth. But there's one more thing that he added, and that was the element of time. And sometimes we don't give ourselves time. So we don't give ourselves that ingredient, that additional ingredient of time. We judge ourselves too harshly, or sometimes we pretend that we don't care. So the gardener realized that his work and the fertilizer needed time to take effect. So a lot of us just want things instantly. But I think this time of the year, this time that we are living in, we've been given the time to do the self-development, right? A lot of us say, yes, I'm this, yes, I'm on track, whatever. But actually, we've been given the gift of time to actually really put into place those practices that are going to give us that development that we so require, that we claim that we want. So the gardener realized that things take time, things need nurturing, things need love, things need care and attention for them to grow. So whether it's at work, whether it's your work or it's your relationships, it's your marriage, it's your friendships or whatever, they all require time. They all require the investment of your grace, your truth, and then also your time. So in short, things take time. So Musha is in a room and she's making a noise. So hoping you can't hear her. So time must be joined by grace and truth. When we respond responsibly to these three elements, we will not only heal, but we will also bear fruit. Time is not just an act of God's grace to us, giving us some space. For he is much too loving to allow us to continue in sin for one moment longer than necessary. Time is not a luxury. Time is a necessity. So as I said, I love this book. I'm not a church goer or anything, but I love this book because I use the Bible as a reference book the same way I use the teachings of Buddha as a book to enrich my life as well. So I found chapter 2 of this very relevant. It's still quite long. There's a lot to read on it, but that passage sort of resonated with me, especially in terms of what's happening today, and especially in terms of what we experience. I think a lot of people don't realize that sometimes you just need to add the element of love. Put some fertilizer around your roots, give yourself some love, treat yourself with grace, be honest with yourself, and then add the element of time. Things don't happen overnight. Um, they they might happen the following day. They might happen the following hour. But I think those three things sort of resonated with me, especially in this time. Treat yourself with grace. Um, be truthful with yourself, and then also give yourself time. So yeah, that's today's conversation from my side. I thought I'd keep it short, 20 minutes. Didn't realize it would take that long. I hope you have a fantastic evening. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Please respond and let me know what you think. Yeah, so that was my talk for today. Good night. Love you guys. Bye.